and it can run data structures and other types of structures directly from the decentralized infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Cubane. Anyone? Next, Porta protocol. Next, Polycruise. Google Cache.
Hello, hi. Mitesh here from Polycruise. Uh, uh, we are building the Polycruise with the AI native no-code platform for the creator, brand, enterprise to be launched and scale effortlessly in Web3. And Polycruise is offering the fast, simple, and code-free infrastructure for all the B2B clients and for the user also very simplified all the storefront apps. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Google Cache.
Yep. Hello, guys. I'm Frank, founder and CEO of the Google Cash. So Google Cash is a shopping tool and platform that built for the C region for the digital shopper, offering the stablecoin cashback with 30 plus top merchant partners now powered by the agentic commerce protocol. With the Google Cash enable the AI-driven instant purchase and secure checkout right within your chat experience. So user can enjoy personalized ways, signal reward, and up to 30% cashback, while merchant benefit from the seamless agentic transaction and enhance the loyalty with the scalable growth. So every purchase is rewarding for both the shopper and brands. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Legend of Hearts.
Hi, yeah, this is Legend of Hearts. Legend of Hearts is a stylized multiplayer Web3 casual action adventure game where players navigate obstacle field levels, convert emotion, liberate hearts, defeat the villain Sharshu, and share their victories with loved ones through NFT gifts and social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is QSTN.
Hello, hi everyone. Abbas this side from QSTN. Well, QSTN is a survey marketplace where people answer surveys and can earn rewards in different blockchains. It helps brands get real feedback from users while giving participants something in return for their opinions. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Baycraft, more to left.
Hey, this is Nicholas from Mortal Labs, Wheelcraft. So Wheelcraft is a first ever lookalike trading card game where every battle is powered by AI generated challenges, making gameplay truly unpredictable and resistant to bots and scripts. So the AI-driven lookalike system creates endless replayability for both Web2 and Web3 audiences. That's it.
Okay. Next, the next one is Agis Finance.
Hi, Sean from Aegis Finance. So Aegis Finance is a decentralized yield platform that let users tokenize stock to earn yield and access instant liquidity through a spendable Visa card. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Yamada, the last one.
Hi there, this is Vijay from Yamata. So Yamata is an all-in-one super app for high-performance order book trading, decentralized options, perpetuals, vaults, and prediction markets. It's powered by our optimistic hybrid exchange architecture, which merges off-chain performance with on-chain verification for provable integrity, even at high-speed execution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna take the attendance one again for those who doesn't have a chance to talk about their business because they joined late. Okay, the first one is XY. Next, predict our market. Hatchivers.
Yes, predictable. Yeah.
Can you make a brief of your project?
Yeah. So we are building a user-generated prediction market on Bitcoin ecosystem powered by an AI oracle.
Yeah. Next, Token Tales.
Hachiba, would you like to present a bit about yourself and also see XY on the call as well? Could you please speak up?
Yeah, I thought I'd try to squeeze in. I'm not sure if my thing's coming through, but hopefully it does. Yeah, we're Hashiverse. We're a decentralized IP. We're a creature collector Web3 native IP. We essentially make a bunch of resources alongside with our games. We make them available, kind of open source, and work together with other indies to create a collaborative environment, a collaborative ecosystem, rather. So at the moment, we've currently got just over 50 builders working over 9 projects, with a couple of those as like interconnected mobile games, hopefully coming out soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
XY, could you please speak up? I saw me to hole in the corner, right? Can you hear me? Okay, never mind. Please continue, Thomas.
Next is Token Tales. Next, Cubane. Next, Porta Protocol. And that's it. Okay, so our topic today is about how to present effectively, and Eric gonna be the speaker of this session.
No, I'm not speaker of this section.
What the fuck?
Could you please, if you are speaker again, Thomas?
So our topic today is about how to present effectively, because you guys gonna have pitching practice in Thursday.
So can you introduce our speaker today, Thomas?
Yeah. So at the beginning, we gonna join in a general meet, and
No, I mean speaker for today, not on Thursday, man.
can you speak again, because your sound is really blurred.
Speaker today.
I'm sorry.
Speaker for today class.
Jigar, Eric, your voice is breaking. Nobody can hear properly.
So our topic today is how to present effectively, with the speaker from the speaker is named Daryl Lim.
Hey guys.
And he's our general partner in Trive Digital. Daryl, you can free to talk now.
All right. Okay. Can I just confirm with everyone that you guys can hear my voice? If you can, just give a yes, emotes. I love them. Thank you so much. All right. Now I'm going to share my screen. If you can see it, let me know. Okay. Everyone can see it? All right. I'm seeing the emotes as well. Thank you so much. Okay, then. So I know I have 2 hours with you today, but I want to make it really engaging as well. So later on at the end of, I have a 2-part series today. So at the end of each part, I would like you to kind of, I'll ask any questions and feel free to kind of, hit it away, right? Because I don't think it's every day you get to speak with someone that's in the field itself. So I would encourage you guys to kind of speak up, and most importantly is ask questions. And I like to say that I'm usually quite an honest VC. So if you ask me a very honest question, I will reply as well, right? In terms of like how VCs thinks. So there's 2 parts to how to pitch effectively. The first part I will go through mainly about the essence of pitching effectively. The second part itself is more towards your decks, right? Because I believe you guys are going to have pitch practice and an upcoming demo day itself. So hopefully, by the end of the session, you guys have what it takes to pitch effectively. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. Yes, I'm the general partner of Trive Digital. I've been in the VC scene for about 3 years now. I'm managing a fund of 20 million AUM. Previously, in my past life, I've worked in tech and consulting. Funny enough, I've never done any other industry besides tech and digital transformation, which is kind of like tech itself. I'm also a core contributor at TankDAO. We're one of Asia's largest advisory firms. And of course, Aureus Partners, I'm also involved in a lot of M&As and OTC deals. So this is basically what I do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, a little bit about my entrepreneurship journey. I've exited about 3 startups in the years 17, 19, and 22. The last one is a blockchain startup. The past 2 before that is more education related and sales automation itself. Now, a lot of things that I'm sharing today is not just, in my role as a VC, right? It's also in my journey as an operator and also, as an entrepreneur, right? And just some fun facts as well. Like what I've also taught you, what I'm going to teach you today is just what I've learned participating in a shit ton of hackathon. I've actually won close to 25, 28, I forget what the actual number is. But if you go to the website, you can just check out all the winnings that I've had since 2016 itself, which is actually since the start of my career. And of course, some of the startups that I founded in the past was backed by Techstars and Plug and Play. Techstars is actually the largest accelerator in US and Europe after YC itself. Okay, so now down to the essence of pitching, right? It's always about communicating your idea. So let's start with the fundamentals, right? Now, I know it's going to be, stupid saying that, what do you mean? Like, what is a starter idea? You guys all have solutions, products, and ideas here, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is, helping people to understand what you're trying to share, right? And so a startup idea effectively is a hypothesis, right? You have a problem, solution, and insights. And I'll go a little bit about what they are, but combine them all together to makes up your hypothesis, right? So what is the problem, within this hypothesis itself? Anytime you present your solution, even the problem opportunity that you have, it needs to have one of these few factors. Is it popular? Is it growing? Is it an urgent issue? Is it expensive? Is it mandatory? Is it really, regulatory issues? And is it frequent, like an issue that someone will, experience a lot, right? if not, no one's gonna hear about it. No one's gonna hear tech. No one's gonna hear even like a lot of you presenting your solutions earlier. I was just kind of taking down some notes. I realized that you're using a lot of these, tech jargons, but I don't really know what problem really good, very, very good example people. One of the startups that I've invested in that is kind of, and they managed to raise from Polymorphic and Tether itself for quite a big pre-seed, even in today's market, right? And of course, what I mean by insights. So whenever you have an idea that you want to pitch, you got to make sure that it's not only the problem that you have, but you got to make sure that you have something on hand, that's so special about you that you can resolve this problem, right? And of course, the way you can do it is these 5 different factors itself. I'll just quickly go through them, but it's not something new. It is actually something that I borrowed from YC itself. So do you have founders fit? And when I mean founders fit, I don't mean like you came from like either Harvard or Google. No, right? Whenever we say founders, because if you kind of look up most of the applications that I've seen, most of you probably come from some Ivy League school or some really big tech company, right? But that's not what we meant by founders edge. By founders edge, I mean like, for example, like you're probably the only guy in the world that could do this. Right, and that means you hold certain patents or certain insights to this, or even your specialization is so unique there's only you. Right. Another thing is that the problem you're solving, the market is growing really, really fast, really, really insane. Right, and one of the things that we look into is this CAGR, compound annual growth rate. Right, if the market is growing insanely fast, that means that hey, you're probably going to make a lot of money and grow really, really fast. Right. So what's one example I can give you? Now, this is not, I'm not going to use a blockchain example. I'm going to use something very, very simple that probably everyone here understands, because this is blockchain. Some of you may not be aware of it, but everyone knows Amazon. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he started focusing on books, right? And that's because but when, before he started books, he looked at the internet usage and the growth of internet itself. Right, as a market, as a means of distribution, and that's kind of like what he went after. Now, the next factor, it's about product. Is your product gonna help solve this problem through a 10x means? Be it making 10x cheaper, 10x faster, 10x better. What is it? Most of you, when you pitch an idea, that you fall into this category itself, right? So most of you are kind of here. Acquisition is something kind of unique as well. So if you have an acquisition edge, right, that means that you have a way to acquire customers at an insanely fast pace, right? You have an edge itself. That is why you're a fit to solve this. And of course, the least is actually founders and monopoly, where monopoly in this case is literally Boolean, which means true or false. Yes. So either you have it or you don't. Right, and very, very, very few of you will be in this category. In fact, I would say in the world, even a lot of products or solutions or companies, they rarely fall into this category. They most likely be a duopoly in a sense itself. Now, so one of the things I always kind of share with startups like yourself or products like yourself is that you have to go through every really detail and tell me what you're trying to achieve, right? Your sole purpose is just to package your idea and present them in a way that I understand, and it's good enough, right? Because I can tell you this, you don't have to sell us hard. We can sell ourselves. If we see potential in an idea, what makes a great investor, a good investor or a great investor, is that normal investors will kind of tell you what's wrong, kind of try to poke holes in your idea and say that, oh, that's wrong. Why isn't it there? Or do you have this? You have that. But a great investor is that will be able to take in what you have, understand what you're trying to do, imagine, using your optimism on what you could become and sell it back to you. So a great investor will know how to do that. So your sole purpose for pitching to an investor is just to package it up so that I'm able to understand it, right? So what are the three things? What I mean by understand, right? So these are the three key things every investor tells himself, right? And I can tell you the amount of IC meetings or even among my friends, whenever we talk about projects like yourself, it mainly boils down into these 3 points. Do I understand the idea? Am I excited by the idea? Do I like the team? All right. And basically that kind of sums it up every decision-making process. You might not believe it. I would say 80% of decision-making boils down to just these 3 items itself. So what I mean by understand is you make yourself really, really clear whenever you're pitching, right? And I will kind of go through what I mean by being clear, because having a clear idea is the foundation for growth. And you're probably thinking, Daryl, what do you mean by growth? This. What is this? This is word of mouth. This is not just applicable to your users, your customers, but also your investors. Great ideas sell themselves, right? And funny enough, your investors sell it for you. I'll give an example that I personally experienced, right? In 2021, I closed my pre-seed round of $1 million US with no product, just a really good deck, in 2 hours, right? And I know a lot of happened in the 2 hours, but in short, basically I pitched to an investor. He liked it. Immediately he got another investor on the call. He liked it as well. They brought in 2 other friends. And within that 2 hours, the ability brought 4 investors on board from 1 guy. And honestly, when they were all in the meeting, I didn't pitch. It was just them saying, hey, I want to introduce you to Daryl. And then they were talking about themselves. And we just negotiated the terms right then and there. And that's how we closed the round, right? Because word of mouth actually sells itself. You want to be the most interesting person in the room. But how does word of mouth actually come around, right? Very simple. I remember your idea. I'm very excited to talk about your idea. And I want to talk about you to other people, right? That's how word of mouth actually comes about. So before people remember what you do, they have to understand what you do, right? And what I mean by that, later I'll give some examples, and I'll probably use your examples that you guys have done when you've introduced yourself over this call itself. But I go by 3 simple points, right? You make things legible, you make things simple, you make things obvious. Right? Now let's go through them one by one, right? So legible literally means making it easy for people to see, right? You're going to go by this rule, no more than 10 slides, not over in 20 minutes, 30 points font. Why? Let me tell you this, your VC is going to go through every single slide if they have hundreds and thousands of words on them. I've never seen a single VC that spends more than 5 seconds on a slide. And I say this confidently because not only I've done this, but whenever I present ideas to my peers, that's probably the same thing. Like when I share a deck over, they come back to me and be like, oh, this is my comment. And they probably spent less than 2 minutes before they responded, right? Another thing about what does it mean to be legible is you will want to avoid a lot of things such as complex words, jargons, technical terms. You have to understand that your job is to make sure that the VCs understand it, right? You're not trying to outsmart him, right? So don't try to use all the different terms to confuse people, because the really great pitches I've seen are, and later you'll see later on, are founders who are able to kind of convey the message and make people understand it and make it really simple, right? So when you use things like, certain technical jargons, MBA terms, consulting terms, technical terms, you just destroy the message. And if a VC doesn't understand it, no matter how hard you're trying to tell him how great your idea, your product, your solution is, they're not going to get it. They're just going to brush it aside and say, I don't understand it. You probably experienced it yourself, whereby, you realize that the VC doesn't understand it and you're trying to wrap your brain around it, even though you have such a great solution for a good problem, right? This is probably the reason why. which is avoiding all this jargon system. Make things simple for people to understand, right? Now, what I mean by also simple, whenever I see pitch decks, there's constantly multiple things happening. And you have to understand the attention span of an investor is really, really short, right? And I know sometimes you're trying to do a lot. You are trying to showcase, all the different things that you can become. But if you want to make things easy for people to understand, my advice is to stick to the rule of one, which means you have one customer, one problem, one solution, one big result, and one ask, right? Don't make things convoluted, make things really simple. Just get to the point, right? You can have your appendixes that kind of shares, how big the potential you can be, right? That's fine. But in the actual pitch itself, if you want people to understand then and there in the 20, 30 minutes that you have with them, stick with the rule of one. It's going to take you a long way, right? And at the end of it, right, what I mean by obvious, the response that you want to get from an investor is not that is so interesting. It is more that is so obvious. Why has anyone built this yet, right? Because the best ideas are the ones that people can find familiarity, they understand it, and they're trying to wrap their brains around like, how is it that no one's building this yet? But when you showcase, obviously your traction, the solution itself, and you're able to kind of distinguish yourself that, hey, yes, it's very obvious. That's why, we built it. But the reason anyone's built it, well, you don't know. But that's how easy it is, right? And so people who understand it, they're familiar with it, they're able to kind of like relate to it, they will probably back you up. And I'll give you an example, right? Now, you can check out this company called Mansa Finance, right? They've evolved a long way, right? So obviously, if you go to the website right now, they don't say this. But the first time they came to me, this was how they pitched it. They said, Mansa provides short-term loans to remittance companies in Africa. Now, if I'm going to ask a question to you guys, did he use, and by the way, this is a blockchain company, and this is invested by Polymorphic and Tether for close to $10 million in pre-seed. Do you see him using any words related to crypto, blockchain, technical jargons? No, right? And I understood it right away, right? Like I understand it enough to the point where I started asking him questions. I was like, oh, what do you mean by short-term loans? What do you mean remittance companies in Africa? What kind of remittance companies? Why do you need that? Right? Because it's so obvious, right? And I realized what they're trying to do. But in this sentence itself, I could understand it right away, what they're trying to do. But as they get into the details, that's what I realized, oh, that's what's so special about them. Right? I can give some background about this company. What they do is they provide, they use liquidity pools, right, as short-term revolving credit loans and vehicles. And they become the RWA company that takes this liquidity pools, liquidity provided to remittance companies, right, that has payment rails in emerging markets, and Africa being the first one. And they have like Laos, Myanmar, and all these different markets. Why do they do that? Right? Well, because they realize remitting companies need pre-funding requirements. So if you want to like ask a remittance company, they have to, obviously they're in the business of sending money abroad, right? The way they work is that they need to have funding in the payment rails bank. So for example, if you want to send money from Africa to London and back, you need to have money in both the Africa and London bank, right? That means that you have your capitals locked up. What they do, and of course, not only that, but sometimes they also have to take up, loans if their volume is really, really high. Because remittance, it's cyclical, right? It's not like today or tomorrow or the next month. It's going to be consistent all year round, right? So that's why they realize that if I can free up the pre-funding requirements and provide them short-term loans that are really, really cheap, at the same time, I provide a lot of these DeFi farmers who are so used to providing liquidity, but providing them with very, very decent yield. They actually provide up to 12 to 14% APY and really, really safe because these companies are not like properties or gold, whatever bullshit. These are companies that are just trying to send money abroad. The risk is relatively zero. right? Because they're in the business of sending money. It's relatively AAA grade stakes. So that idea that they shared with you boils down to this one sentence, and it made everyone intrigued, right? Well, it made Tether enough to put a couple of millions in, so I just let the company sell itself, right? So before I move on to actually, knowing how to structure your deck, I want to ask if any one of you have any questions itself before I move on to the next stage. If you're shy, you can type it in. If you want to just speak out, feel free to kind of unmute yourself and just speak. Yeah.
Hey man, I might just ask something. I'm Sol from Hatchiverse. I'm just curious to know about, especially the slide with like keeping it simple and focusing on one customer, one focus, one problem. How about in the cases of like something that you feel is a little bit more complex but only makes sense because, for example, like we're like ecosystem. I guess we can try to simplify it, but we don't say a lot, because they're saying like we make it simpler for devs and users to work as one organization or something like that, But really, in our ecosystem, for example, what makes us an ecosystem is on one side, we are a solution for users to kind of have a little bit greater ownership in like what's made, and we're a decentralized IP. So essentially, as a user, they can also create, and we try to use that relationship to turn them into creatives, and then we push on that UGC route. We also aim for devs, and ultimately, like for the user, it's consumer products. So we've kind of got like 2 layers of, or 3 layers of target audience, depending on how you want to specify it, and they're all important for us. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, what do you do in the case where you feel as though the context is important, or a greater definition is important, or if it doesn't fit that mold of simple, or what would you do?
Interesting. So it's a good question. So one of the things that I would do if the idea is too complex to just dumb it down to the way I show it, I use certain anchoring, right, to allow people to understand. What I mean by that, it's basically X or Y, right? So for example, you use something that's already been built, be it in Web 2 or Web 3, that is somewhat something that that take over, the essence of what they're trying to do, right? And then use it example, right, as a verb to kind of describe what you want to do. So I believe you probably have a Web 2 example that you can use, right, and say that, we are this, but for Y. This is one way that you can share and simplify your idea. Because like I said, your whole purpose is to make investors like myself understand you, right? So at the end of the day, if I understand it, that's good enough. It doesn't matter how you do it, right? But of course, I make it simple. I just say that the rule of 1. But these are just some tricks you can use to make people understand your idea. But good question, Sol. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Yes, please. I am from Nudix. We are uncensored game platform, and my question is that yes, we refined our pitch back quite well, we think, and we can explain in a very simple that we are basically an adult game platform. But the problem is that a lot of investors don't like the word adult, and actually if our demo day is going to be in Dubai, it's illegal to distribute adult content in Dubai, so we want to get around that part. So how maybe can we keep it simple but also like make it compliant and friendly to investors?
Really about pitching already. This is more from a legality perspective, but I can share this as a good example. I'm a fund that's fully licensed in Singapore, right? And as you know, Singapore is one of the biggest countries to be licensed in. So one of the things that I'm not allowed to invest in legally, like I can go to jail, right, is adult entertainment, right? So the unfortunate thing for you is that you either have to target a different segment using the existing technology, or you have to find an investor or a suitable one that could take up your investment. So this is more of targeting the right investor more than trying to stay compliant, because even after investing, usually they have certain clause inside that state that, you know, the investment is not for this, this, and this. And if that means adult entertainment, if they were to conduct due diligence on you, they wouldn't be able to proceed legally anyway. So I wouldn't say this is more of a pitching issue. This is more of a targeting issue. So either if they change the target audience completely in adult entertainment, or you have to find the right investors for you itself. But yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And one also quick question about like presentation formats, because also one problem that we encountered, and I think other members present here also, is that investors sometimes just don't read the presentation. If it's like a full pitch deck, you know, they like usually don't read. So we came up with the idea is to have one short presentation and one long presentation. So a short one to like get a very basic overview, and like if they're interested to go further. So what would you maybe suggest in terms of formats of presentations for investors, like in terms of slides, minutes, and so on?
So usually when I was an entrepreneur, I usually have two sets of deck. I call it the reading deck and the pitching deck. So the reading deck is for, you know, if they want to find out more about you guys, right? You just send them the reading deck that contains a lot more information. But that's probably you already have the first or second meeting with them. The pitching deck that you use is the example that I've given, which is less than 10 slides, because you want to take this opportunity to answer questions and ask them questions, right? Because your whole purpose of getting through the door already is to make them interested enough to want to ask you more questions. So every slide is very valuable. So you need to make sure that every slide invoke thoughts, right? Oh, how do you do this? What is that? That's so cool, right? That is what you're trying to do. And of course, if you're trying to get a first meeting, let's take a step back. If you're trying to get a first meeting, I don't even send a deck. I'll just send an interesting enough blurb, right? In fact, I can tell you among peers, I think even Eric can say this is true. When we share deals with friends, we usually share the blurb over, right? And if the guy says, "Oh, that sounds interesting enough, can I meet with them?" You really yield a meeting. It's very rare a friend sends a deck to me, I'll read it. I'm usually quite honest with my friends. My friends are quite honest with me. We don't read each other's portfolio decks. We just tell them what it is. We just tell them why it's so awesome. Usually, it's less than 100 words on Telegram, and that gets us a meeting right away. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that was very useful.
All right. Anybody else before I move on to structuring? Oh, yes, Sony.
I'm from Polycruise, and I wanted to ask, we are the infrastructure company, Web3 infrastructure company, and we have 6 different products. And it gets very difficult for us to, portray ourselves in very simplified terms to any investor. One problem is that, and another problem is the thing is right now we showcase ourselves as Canva, Shopify, and Zapier for Web3. So we wanted to figure out the right strategy for pitching ourselves perfectly.
Okay. My advice is you probably have, out of this 6 product, a single product that is very special in a sense where it's valuable, it solves a big problem, and you probably have a bigger group of customers wanting this out of the 6, right? So I would stick with that one single product. And even if you have the 6 product that we want to present, make it more towards as part of your growth plans or part of your expansion plans in the future, right? Because later on, I'll kind of go through this a little bit on go-to-market. Right? When people talk about go-to-market, usually what we as investors want to see is that you have a single product targeting a very small user base, right? I'll give an example, which is another company I've invested in and personally advised as well. They're basically a perp dex, right? And the tagline is trade anything on mobile. And when I say trade anything, I meant anything. You want to be prediction markets, You want to be derivatives. You want to be spot trading, commodities, equities. You can trade literally everything on mobile, right? And the way they did their go-to-market was that they targeted specifically just the derivatives market. They have multiple, like I said, things that you can trade on, right? But they target only the derivatives market on a closed beta in Korea, right? Very specific. And when they launched, they had only 145 users, but they generated over $5 million in transaction volume on a weekly basis, right? So what does that actually tell you? Dude, if I can get 145 guys trading $5 million just on perps, imagine what I could do with all these bloody products that I have, right? You see the way I've kind of presented to you the idea? And funny enough, none of these ideas, I'm the founder, but I can present it to you as though I'm one. That's because I understand it well enough. So my advice to you is stick with one, right? Focus on that one problem, one solution, and even to go to market as well. And then talk about how you could expand to others. Because what you're trying to do is trying to make it realistic and easy for people to understand that you have a very clear goal for success. All right?
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Daryl. That was really nice.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah. I have a question about comparison tables. Right.
Yes.
A few years ago, the recommendation was you have to do a comparison table with your competitors of what's better about you. And
Okay.
recently, in more recent pitches or decks, that's gone, right? The recommendation is not to do it. That's for a later meeting. So what do you think about that?
I think you'll go through that later on. I would say that it differs from people to people. I like to put it there. I like to see it. But the way I like to see it is not your direct competitors. Why I want to see it is if you understand the alternatives itself, right? Because a lot of people have came up to me and say, "Oh, Daryl, I don't have a competitor. So how do I have a competitive analysis?" Right? And I'm like, okay, but how are your customers resolving the problem right now? They may take a longer time. They may pay more, but they definitely have some way to do it, right? Let me give you an example that everybody knows, right? Uber. Right? So Uber is that you can book a cab anytime, anywhere, wherever you are, right? Before Uber came along, what is the alternative that you guys use? You call the taxi company. You make a phone call, you tell them where you are, you wait 10, 15 minutes for them to come back to you, and then you wait another 15 fucking minutes, and then they probably tell you that, okay, we probably have some guy, and then text you to find you, right? So there is an alternative before Uber, you see? I want to know if you understand what the alternative is, because then you know exactly where your customer base is, right? So whether or not you should have it or not, I think that's a personal preference. My opinion, you should have it, but that's because as a VC, I want to see not just the direct competitors, if you have any. I want to understand if you know what is your user currently using itself. All right? Hope that answers your questions.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Before I move on. Yeah, later pitch decks is like 10 slides. I'm gonna go through that later on. But anything else more on, the way you should be pitching itself, allowing people just understand your solution. Anybody else? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'll just move on to the next section. Just give me a moment. Okay, so the classic pitch deck. All right, so this is usually the 10 slides that you need. This is 10 slides that I use, and not just for my startups, but whenever I participate in hackathons that I win, honestly, just 10 slides. I don't make it really complicated at the end of the day, right? So you want to start with, like I mentioned earlier, right, with the problem or the opportunity itself. You have to describe the pain you're alleviating, or even the opportunity that you've identified itself. Because sometimes, understand, you're not necessarily a problem, right? You've found out there's an opportunity, and that's why you want to tackle it, right? So for like Kalshi and Poly Markets as prediction markets is an opportunity. It's not really a problem, right? A problem is like either scan, right? I can't freaking find my transactions. I don't know where things are, There's no way to kind of identify and trace transactions itself, right? So it's actually a problem. So you have to be clear about what you are, a problem or opportunity, because there are different ways of presenting it. But the most important thing is that you have to start with that, right? No one's going to care about what your solution is. Don't start with, oh, I'm an AI, blah, blah, blah. I'm a blockchain, power, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like, okay, so what, right? The very fundamental thing an investor asks you, or is going to be thinking in the back of his mind is, so what? So what? Why are you building this, right? So this is an example. So the examples we're seeing is just this. I'm making it really easy, right? So example is like, oh, okay, we're talking about pitch decks right now. Founders build bad seed decks, right? It's a huge waste of time. Bad decks, they don't raise money. If they have no money, they can survive, right? So I've kind of presented you the solution on why you guys need great pitch decks, right? Which is why you're here. Okay. Now we talk about solutions, right? One thing I have to, it really pisses me off as well whenever I see this is a lot of you like to dive right into the features, right? And not necessarily the solution itself, right? Because if you just say all these different technical jargons, that's probably the features that you have, not really the solution that you have. For example, either scan, well, make it easy for people to find transaction hash, right? So you have to tell people like, what is it that you are trying to solve, right? I'll make it an even example. Even let's use Uber, right? Since everybody knows that, right? What is the feature? Geolocation tracking, right? But do they say geolocation tracking? No, they say book a cab anytime, anywhere, wherever you are, right? That's very simple. People understand it because, like I said, what is the thing? People have to understand it, right? So it explains why your solution helps and the outcomes that it generates, right? So my example is that, well, templates here, they solve this problem. It's fast to use, it's simple to explain, and it closed more fundraising round, right? So as you can tell, when you're going to present a solution, you have to tell them what is the outcome you're trying to generate for whom, right? What is the factor that you're improving, right? Faster, cheaper, better, more transparent? I don't know. Make it sound simple, but get to the point, right? I don't want to hear about all these features because that's more about the product itself, but not the problem you're trying to solve on the solution that you have. Now, this is what I call the secret sauce. This segment, you want to share your edge, right? Essentially telling people why you're so special, what makes you unique, why should I care, right? I think earlier I kind of mentioned a little bit about that in terms of the insights part. This is where it comes in. So my example is like, our deck works because of science. Time to create decks is 9% less. We created the design is approved by tier 1 VCs like A6 and Z, right? So when you present the secret sauce, you need to tell me an insight that makes you special, right? So it could be your certain algorithm, right? It could be that you have certain major distribution channels, right? Like, by the way, this is an example, right? One of the companies that I'm advising as well, they are doing a cashback platform on crypto. But one of the edge that they have is that even though they are at a pre-seed stage, this is not an LOI. They have signed the top telco companies in 5 different countries that are willing to work with them, right? And I'm like, holy shit, why? Right? But that was their secret sauce because no one could have that kind of partnership, or not even partnership, it's actually signed clients, right? And of course, that is towards the edge that they have itself, which is the acquisition or distribution side of things. So when you want to mention anything special about yourself, this is the way to go. Now, this is the how to make money slide. I don't know why most blockchain companies, maybe in the past, I understand why everyone's going for the TGE, low float, high FTV narrative, whereby you can just launch a token at an insane price, don't have to generate any income. Well, if you're doing that in the past, yes, because the whole industry back then in crypto and blockchain is still quite nascent. Even investors are trying to understand and learn, right? But everyone evolved over time, even the VCs themselves, right? Even us. So now everyone's kind of focused on revenue generation. In fact, any company in the world, if you're a business, if you're the purpose of you existing, you should definitely make money, right? So that's something that's very important. Please, please, please make sure that's inside. I would say that 99% of startups, 99% of VCs expect this out of startups, right? So you need to explain how you generate revenue and how you're making your business sustainable. Right? Example, we make money on every deck, right? 5% capital raise, tokens. We generate how much revenue. If you have the data, that's great. Later, I'll kind of show you the traction bit itself. Right, of course. Because we've already produced. We don't have to produce new decks every time. It sells itself. Margins are really, really high. Right. At the end of the day, we're trying to look at, okay, can you charge people for it? Can you make money off it? Is your margins going to increase over time? Right, especially if you have a product. Right, and of course, how much are people already paying you? Right? Is there anything that tells me that your product is actually sought after as well? And revenue, obviously, this thing, right? Like, if you throw everything out the window, if you generate revenue as a startup project, trust me, you're going to get funding, right? I've never seen a startup that didn't get funding if they can successfully generate revenue, right? That is sustainable, yeah, not like just throwing money and just, costing more money than you're making itself. Now, I think earlier one of you, I forget who it was, asked me about, in terms of like, if I have multiple products, what should I do? Now, this is where go-to-market, GTM means go-to-market, right, comes in, right? And as a VC or as an investor, we tend to look at things that don't scale, right? What I mean by that, right? We know that, okay, you guys claim that I'm going to get 1 million users, I'm going to be worth X amount of money, I'm going to make 10, 20, $100 million revenue, right? But before you get there, you are going from 0 to 1, which is where everybody is right now. I'm assuming it because I mentor some of you. So it's all about trying to showcase that I can get a head start in things, right? And what I mean by doing things that don't scale, right? For example, in this case, I say that, okay, the thousand slides made in Singapore every day, right? Which means that I'm targeting only Singapore as a market. It's a first market, it's a small market. I know it's slow, but it's going to scale up over time because decks are really hard to build, right? And over time, we're going to be making bigger, better, and easier decks itself, right? So, for example, back to the example I've given earlier, Mansal Finance, right? Their long-term goal is global payments, right? Before that, emerging markets. Before that, Africa. Before that, literally a city in Africa with 2 remittance companies. That was it. That was the pitch in terms of like how they're gonna expand and grow the market, but they know where to start, how to establish a beachhead, how to grow market share, right, and expand country from country, right? And they were able to kind of identify the growth plan, but also know where to start. Because if you don't know where to start, it's going to be a big issue, right? Like, who are you targeting? Where does the user reside? Where do they come from? What are the marketing channels are going to attract them? Or the sales channels, right? Or even kind of like the cashback platform. They have 5 telcos across 5 countries, but they target Philippines first because the founder is Filipino, right? And they obviously have an edge in Philippines. So that was easy to establish a beachhead, right? We're targeting Filipino telco, smart, right? And basically grow the market from there. So you need to start small. And I know it sounds counterintuitive. You might be thinking, who would fund that? But most VC look into that because it shows that you are grounded and you're realistic and you know what to do rather than just plucking numbers from thin air and figuring things out, right? We don't like risk. And this tell us that you know how to de-risk your investments and you know where and how to spend your money, right? This is actually what the GTM slide is all about. Okay, now the competition slide, right? So as I mentioned, it's more of a personal preference. I usually like to see it there, but like I said, it's not always just direct competitors that I'm looking at, but it's all about what is the alternative that people are going for. Now, do I say this? One thing that I don't like seeing, and I think a lot of VCs hated a chart is this one, right? Where it's your XY graph, because it doesn't tell me anything, right? It doesn't tell me how unique you are. It doesn't tell me what your solution is solving, and what particular aspects of things, right? It just tells me like, okay, you're cheaper, better, faster, more transparent. Okay, but how, right? I don't have any information on it. So usually, if you want to do a competitors analysis slide, do rows and columns, right, with checkboxes. That's like the easiest way to kind of do it. But don't do this because if you're gonna do this, I'd rather remove it because it didn't tell me anything, right? Like I said in the earlier segment of how to pitch effectively, your purpose is to help the VC understand. To me, this is like a filler slide, right? It serves no purpose. So if it doesn't serve any purpose, don't put it in, right? Okay, your A team. Now, this is where it's your opportunity to shine. Why are you and your team members the best people to do this itself? Now, I'll just give an example. But what usually I hope to see, or what a lot of VCs love to see, is that you've done things in the past, right? And we don't be like, okay, you're from Google, okay, but what? Oh, well, if you're saying that, well, you were from Google, say, in the AI department, and you build a recommendation engine, right? It optimizes the search engine by I don't know how many X multiple. Holy shit. Okay. That is something worth saying, right? Or let's just say that you're in a blockchain company, right? You built this, you're part of Ethereum Foundation, and you effectively built this particular product or feature of Ethereum itself that optimizes the chain whatsoever, right? At the end of the day, is to tell them that you've done something successful in the past and use this as an opportunity. Of course, you're going to be like, okay, I came from this and that. Yes, that is good, but also add in information of what you've done there, right? The whole idea is that I want to know you've done something great in the past, right? And that, because success breeds success. So if you've been successful in the past, the likelihood of you being successful in this particular venture, pretty high as well, right? So that's kind of like what we as VCs are trying to understand from the team slide. So if you just mention your CTO, the co-founder, or just say CTO, co-founder, and that I'm from Harvard or I'm from Ethereum or whatever chain I can call it. Okay, I'm like, great, but so what, right? Remember, everything is about answering so what, right? Because you're trying to make me understand so that, I remember you. Because if I don't understand you, I won't remember you. Okay, this is a lot of people put this in, right? I usually am against it because forecast is usually bullshit. What I mean by that, unless you actually have really, really good traction, if you've never launched a product, if you've never done even a beta test or an alpha test, you don't even have a community, what's your number there for, right? It most likely means you plug it out of thin air and put it in, right? Most likely, we're going to be questioning how you get those numbers itself. So it is only best if your forecast actually means something. And if you have it, make sure that you're able to articulate how the figures was developed. In fact, whenever I look at forecast slide, I will ask them like, okay, how do you assume there's going to be churn? Why do you say that? How do you assume that you're going to attract TVL? Why do you say that? Or how are you going to say that you're going to attract transaction volume? Why do you say that? Right? I'll always constantly press on how you get his numbers. And of course, if you're able to answer it, that's great. But most of the time, if this is completely made up, I would advise you not to put it in. But if you have it, that's great. Now, this is more on the traction slide. What have you accomplished so far, right? Show progress. And of course, what I plan to try and raise itself. So this is an example, right? Oh, okay, for the slides example, right? Oh, all the companies are using us to build decks, right? And on a month-to-month growth, the numbers really, really good, right? Because when you can show growth, your forecast actually makes sense. It also tells me that, well, you're on a really good trajectory. If I fund you, this number can 5 or 10x, right? Because you're doing this without my money. Imagine what you could do with my money, right? This is what VCs are telling themselves when they see your traction, right? But if you have no traction and you're asking them to just trust you blindly, why, right? And I hate this, that a lot of projects are like, oh, if you're not taking a risk on us, then why you should be making money? Well, because you're not the only project looking for funding. There's thousands of you up there, right? So there's going to be at least one of you that has traction in the same category itself, right? It's very rare that you come out at the same time, in the same period, doing the same thing, and none of you have any traction, right? I've never seen a category of like of such a thing happening, unless, of course, you're doing that's very intensive, that's research focused, right? And that's only happening in AI and biotech and hardware, right? Where you take it's capital and resource intensive industries. We ourselves as VCs know that. So unless you're in those categories, we understand that, yeah, you're not gonna have this, right? But your prototype, your pilot of those capital intensive industries will usually have that, right? Some sort of research, some sort of test, some sort of pilot to be done. Like, hey, like when GPT came out, right? They have certain metrics that they use against, like, hey, this is why we're going to be the next big AI company itself. Right? So unless you're in a resource intensive industry, which most of you I know are not, right? It's pretty obvious if you are or you're not, right? You probably need to have some sort of traction itself. And of course, there are different ways to get traction, right? But the best way is obviously paying customers. One thing is that if you're a decentralized application, if you're dApp, one way I've kind of encouraged people is that you don't necessarily have to use your technology to test the hypothesis to generate revenue. You can use other technologies first, right? Or you can don't even have to be on testnet, right? You can just try to see how people, for example, if you're, okay, let's dying segment in crypto, but let's just say you're a game, right? Itself. Well, you can actually, never mind. AI is a good example. Now, this is how some of the initial AI companies became great companies in the beginning or got them funding, right? You'd be like, oh, Daryl, I need to build my model out, right? I need to, showcase how great our AI model is. But the whole idea is that if you're trying to make people use your product only the way it is intended, I'll give it a good example. I'm going to name them, but there is a certain AI company, when they sold their solution, they did not have the product. They have 20 interns on the clock 24/7 replying to messages or the AI prompts made by users, right? And that was their AI product. And they sold it successfully, right? So does it cost them money? Of course, because they're paying interns in AI. But did it work as intended? Yes, right? So they were able to prove that, well, even though I may not have the tech yet, but I proved that people want to use such a product, right? I just have to kind of build it all out. So different ways are going to get traction, right? Don't just be like, oh, I need to build this whole thing out, so I need funding first. No, it doesn't work that way, right? I've been an entrepreneur, right? Maybe some VCs out there who came from investment banking and consulting or not. But when I did what I did, for my other startups itself, one of them actually, I actually did that, right? I actually created wireframes and then hired people in the back to kind of make it look like things were being processed, but it's actually not, just to prove that people pay the product itself. Okay, so this is just some personal advice as a VC regarding you guys pitching to VCs. Not necessarily more about the pitch, because I think I've shared a lot about them, is to know that VC is not just about money. Anybody can give you money. If you really want money, my honest opinion, go raise it from angels. You're probably gonna have better luck. Angels ask for more, for less due diligence. They are shorter time period to close. and they probably trust you more because usually it's a personal friend of yours, right? And I can say this, running 3 companies in the past, angels were the easiest checks to come in if you really want money, right? If you really want a VC, make sure that you understand you're getting into marriage, right? So you have to choose wisely, choose one that is able to help you for the long term, right? And be clear about that. Don't go telling people like, oh, I'm here looking for a strategic partner. After they give you the cash, you fucking disappear for like 2 years, right? That is not finding a good VC partner. That is looking for cash. And you can be sure you can find a great VC. For example, one of my portfolio is a XRP yield platform. And they were trying to find a lot of XRP holders, right? I happen to live in Malaysia, so I happen to know all the regulators, all the asset managers. And one of the insights I've got was that, oh, funny enough, after Japan and Korea, the third largest XRP holders around the world is in Malaysia. So I said that, well, I can connect you to all these different guys. So they ended up doubling the volume just by my connections itself, right? So you have to find VCs are willing to work for you and with you, but of course it has to be a two-way street. Okay. Of course, understanding that as VCs we only succeed as when you succeed. So communicate openly. Don't try to hide things. We know we're very transparent. Just another day, there was a startup that came to me that needed funding, and they were not very transparent with things. When I did a background check on my own, right, of course, without telling them, the feedback that I got was like, oh, actually, there was this thing about it. And, when we kind of dig deeper the rabbit hole, we found out that, okay, indeed, there were a lot of negative things about these founders and what they did before, or even the things they're trying to do now. And we just end up didn't invest in them. So be open and be transparent, because one day somehow we will find out. We always find out, right? And of course, like I said, we don't just fund the ideas. That's the reason why we showcase different things. It's about the traction of the team as well, right? You have to be able to showcase that you're the best person out there doing this, and you have a way to prove your hypothesis is actually right, and that is through traction. And of course, my personal favorite, as an advice to you guys, is execution kills strategy any day. So you can have the best plan, but the thing is, there's no such thing as a foolproof plan. Every single startup I've ever funded, and this is 100%. This is not even a 99. No, 100% of the startups I invested, shit always hits a fan. Things always goes wrong. A founder quit, investment pulled out. You have, an issue with your tech. Your server went down, right? You a big client pulled out, right? There's always going to be issue on a day-to-day basis. It's how you react to these and how you execute. Okay, now I'm done with my sharing session itself. So, do you have any questions? Anyone? Like I said, too shy, just feel free to kind of like, yes, Jonah.
Hey, this is Jonah from Legend of Hearts. Quick question about the idea we discussed. You mentioned about the what have you accomplished?
Yep.
So far. So you mentioned about the growth. That was, you mentioned it's very effective to show that you have showed you have at the earlier stage for a gaming company. What is the suggestion? Is something like growing our community by increasing the number of wait lists? Would that be helpful, or is it something else that should be included in that slide to help the VCs better understand what we're doing and what is the roadmap?
Okay, you're a game, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is very good advice, because MetaPulse, which I exited, was a game company. My advisor back then was one of the board of directors at CCP Games. If you don't know CCP Games, they were the creators of EVE Online. The way we actually do it to prove traction without building the actual game itself is very simple. It's building a community, right? How do you think traditional Web2 companies build up interest? You may be surprised. They actually do a lot of community building on specific markets just to test whether or not a game has an interest. And this is very prominent from, my advisor previously told me, right? For example, Supercell, right? Supercell is a very popular mobile game, right? Do you know that for every single Supercell product that you see out in the market, there was 50 pilots being done. And out of those 50 pilots being done, there were at least 200 ideas being pitched into communities itself, right? And they tested the waters to say that, hey, there's this new game, new concept. We're trying to build this. This is how the game mechanics is going to be. And then based on that, they get interest. The people that get the products that got interest, they built a pilot, a very specific gaming loop or a gaming mechanic. That's what we did as well, MetaPals, right? So we started out by building the community, saying that this is what we're trying to do. We initially had just about 1,000 people in a fucking Discord, right? And we just started engaging with every single one, right? Like literally, I text every single person in my Discord, right? I'm like, what made you interested? What got you? I literally did like a user interview or user case study, right? And I literally had, I think, in one point in time, 50 interviews a week. Like I literally have 50 meetings with just users on Discord, and of course, I was targeting like a very cute game. It was a Tamagotchi game, so my category is mostly females, but I was talking to like mostly female undergrads, 50 meetings a week, right? And just trying to understand what games they play, why would they play this, right? And then I kind of created the concepts, the art, game mechanics, the loop, what it actually is, and then getting people involved, right? A game, actually, at the end of the day, you're trying to get the community involvement as well. So after you get that, then you can go start towards building the mechanics. And our initial mechanics, even though we're trying to build a lot of things, it was very simple. It was just a browser pet that you can literally touch. You can't feed it, you can't do anything, you can just touch it, right? But it's just there itself. And then we see the behavior beginning. And then we start building mechanics on top of it, even though it's a very close beta launch. I think initially we only had like 100 people testing it. And then people literally were just going on their browser, just petting this pet a day. And of course, that's a reaction, right? We're trying to see whether or not people kind of play a Tamagotchi pet on a screen. But the whole idea is that if you kind of bother opening it up, looking at it, staring at it, and we can track your session time, that speaks volumes. So we're tracking the session time behind it. So that's kind of like how, it's specific to your problem, I would go about tackling traction. Hope that answers your question, Jonah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think we have, 45 minutes left. So happy to answer any question that you have. It could be anything related. It could be the pitch. It could be how to make your product, your idea really simple for people to understand, or even just the VC mindset even, right? Feel free to ask right away. Yes, come in.
Hey, hello. Thank you for your good sharing about the point to the VC and the community. And yeah, I'm Kevin from the Ohio. We are also a Web3 trading card games. We are more like a traditional indie game teams. Then this is our first project to touch the blockchain infrastructure to let the NFT cards can exchange, decentralize, and this is our first project. So we are thinking, we are also seeing the situation that in your opinion, do you think for the team like us is a small team and the indie game team, we have the lack of a resource and human network. There's a good approach or direction is that we should as you mentioned, build a community first, and then we get the a metrics for our game, and then we can start to pitch to our maybe angels or VCs. This is a more makes sense for them to put the investment on us. Is what about your opinion, or is it correct or not?
Okay. I don't think being small is an issue, right? And I know it's very cliche, right? But Stardew Valley was built by one person, right? So if you ever say that, oh, I don't have enough resources, well, some guy built an entire fucking game and made millions of dollars on it, right? And I'll give you my example as well. My game, right? Initially, when we started out, was one CTO, myself, and a CEO, right? I was handling all the marketing. The CEO handled all the designs. The CTO built it. It was just three of us, and we built the prototype out, right? And we let people see it, right? It was just three of us. So I don't think it's an issue if you're a small indie team, right? And you're in a very good space, right? Trading card game, right? So your players are either going to be someone that has experienced trading card games online already, or people that have played physical card games itself. And where do you find these guys? Literally trading card shops, right? I'm a big trading card player. I play MOTG ever since I was 10, right? And so I'm very used to playing card games itself, right? And you will find me in my teenage and adult years in trading card game shop, right? So that could be your player base to acquire initial interest. Like I said, you don't need a lot of people. You can have the first 10, 50 people that you personally talk to that loves you. Because what happens when someone loves you? What is it? There's something that I taught you earlier. Word of mouth. You don't have to sell your product if people understand what you do and they love what you do, because they remember what you do and they tell other people about it, right? So that's what you want to focus on. So if you're a trading card game, what I encourage you is you can even, print out the cards itself. If you don't have the time to kind of code, right? You can do cutouts of the card. Go to trading card game shops, find people and say, would you be willing to test out my game? I have a friend who built a very successful board game company, right? And that's what he did in the beginning. He get people to play his really crappy, scrappy version of papers that he just cut out and just get people to start playing it, and then built the game along it. And then people who started playing his game, in person, started loving it. And he even hosted game session night at his house to get people's interest. And then just word start to spread in the community itself. So that's, how I kind of go back to starting things small from a go-to-market perspective. So that's my advice for an indie developer like yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, right now we are also in the same direction. We also print out our card in the factory. Yeah, so we also participate for a traditional indie game expo. So we are want to find our Web2 players first and then push them into Web3 market. This is our direction for now. Yeah,
exactly. And I think going back to the basics, and this is not just for Kevin, but for everyone as well, right? If you're a blockchain company, you don't have to just mention you're doing blockchain, right? When you dive into the details later on, after someone understands your idea, they'll get it, right? I gave you the example of Monza earlier. You don't see a word of blockchain in there. They raised $10 million on pre-seed, right? That tells you things. It probably means that you don't have to show your tech, right? And just say that, oh, this is what I'm building, all these different jargons, because it doesn't work if people don't understand it on the problem you're trying to solve, right? So I think good work. Keep on doing it, and of course, happy to chat. Anybody else have any other questions?
Hi, Daryl. It's Mitesh from Polycross.
Hi.
Hi. We are building the infrastructure through the Polycross. We are allowing create a brand and enterprise to build, launch, and scale effortlessly in blockchain. So we're making simple and code-free infrastructure. So we have two main functionality. We have a backend B2B integration for the client as a chain, and the front end we have a ready-made storefront apps. That means front end we have all the domains that we are covering here. Whether it's a RWA, whether it's NFT, whether it's a game, DeFi, or social hub or launchpad. And we already built the 6, that all the blockchain application with this different domain wise. And we have some traction also as a client wise. Some of the chain has requested to integrate with our RWA domains, and some of the clients who requested to use our the NFT Polycross AI Studio. So I just wanted to understand that how we can represent the Polycruise with the different domain. We have a front end side and the back end. We have a back end B2B is also the plug and play and the no code infrastructure. So allowing all the chain as a client, so they can easily integrate their chain and allowing their community to use ready-made application that we have already deployed here. So how we can represent the Polycruise on a simple way? Because if you represent this way, then probably they might misunderstood about this, all the different domain, why you are working on it and why you are launching it. So our simple is like we are building the Web3 Shopify Canva plus JPR in Web3.
Okay, I would start by making things really simple, right? I know you're trying to do a lot of things, right? But make it okay. What is a very complex part? Okay, this may be more applicable if you're a developer, right? At Atlassian, when they first started out, right? Atlassian's a multi-billion-dollar company based out of Australia. They built Jiro, right?
Yeah.
What they create multiple products. Am I right? And what do they do? They've created products for developers to collaborate seamlessly in a transparent manner. That was the one line of Atlassian, right? And of course, all the you see how I dumb it down really simple? That's what literally Atlassian does, right? For Jiro, that particular product itself, which is they allow developers to seamlessly collaborate across teams, right? So you need to make sure that people understand your point. I think you kind of mentioned about you were targeting creators, correct?
We are targeting the L1, L2 chains, brands, and enterprise to come in.
Okay, then maybe focus on which target segment is going to be the biggest adopter or the earliest adopter first, right? You have enterprise, you have all these different chains, or even at Web2 customers. Who do you think is going to be your earliest adopter, right? The ones that understand or will be able to value you right away, right? And then target that particular segment first. Because how we can pitch it is that, we are, we solve this problem for this set of customers, and this is the impact that we do, right? In future, we can expand on this and target X, Y, and Z customers as well, right? This is one way to kind of start with just one and then kind of expand over it. If you have a complex product, because even like I did enterprise sales when I was in my early days of my career, right? Where I have to sell, I sold ERP softwares, I sold LMS systems, CRM systems, very complex enterprise solutions, right? But even we targeted a specific market segment, even though internally, from a technical perspective, our product can work across multiple industries, right? But when we started, for example, selling our learning management systems back then, it could be applied to literally every bloody thing on earth. But we targeted specifically insurance companies itself. Now, I'm going to give you an example. This is a very good one, right? Why did I target insurance companies for a learning management system? Because we found out that insurance companies have financial advisors or insurance agents that have to that they have a growth of incoming insurance agents that have to go through training at the start of their career and continue their training every 3 to 6 months, because financial products such as insurance have to change due to regulations, and that means every time the regulation change, they need to go back and learn something new, right? So we realized that learning management systems is very important for this target segment, and when we were so specific about it, I literally closed the 3 top insurers in Singapore in less than 3 months, just like that. Even though we just started out as a seed stage company, right? Because we were like you, we're targeting so many different segments, and then we found out, like, you know what? Why is it that it's not growing fast enough? And when we started insurance, we expanded into finance, right? And when we just targeted into the different verticals that are similar in nature and start branching out towards that, and it was an easy expansion when you look in hindsight, right? So that's how I would advise you to start with just one. I know it can be used for all, right? I know that I've done that, right? But target one first, and then you start to expand over time.
Okay, yeah. So
Okay.
that's what we are planning to do with our advisor as well. So focus with the first AI Studio, and then we go about all the next domain, that we have.
Awesome.
That's very
All right.
full. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitesh. Anybody else have any questions itself? Yes, no, anything regarding VCs, pitching, or even if you have something that you want to just share across your idea, keeping this session open since I have the remaining 30 minutes. If not, I can close it off early as well. But any other things that anyone has to ask? All good. Okay, then. I think, it's a pleasure today sharing, and thank you for all your questions. If you want, Eric can pass you my Telegram account. You guys can reach out to me. But yeah, thank you very much. Eric, I'll just hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you for your very insightful speech and very enthusiastic Q&A. Have a nice day. Thank you. And with the others, founder, please stay in here for a few minutes because I have an announcement for our pitching practice in Thursday. So just a quick reminder about our pitching practice session on Thursday in 7 p.m. UTC +7, and we will start together in the main room for a short welcome, and then we will introduce the session, the instructors, and quickly highlight the purpose of Thursday practice. After that, we will divide into 3 breakout rooms, and each room will have around 5 to 6 projects based on the list we shared earlier. And in each room, each project will have 7 minutes for each team to pitch, and after that, our instructor and advisor will have 5 minutes for feedback from them. So please make sure your slides and setup are ready in advance, and I'm looking forward to see your pitches. That's it. Also, the material and the record of this class today will be on Courseware right after. So that's all. Thank you for your participation. Have a nice day, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye bye.
See you.